This episode of Dog Training Bytes is brought to you by Downtown Barkery, a premium line of treats and chews by Downtown Pet Supply. Use code BYTES, that's BYTES, to save $5 on your order. Welcome to Dog Training Bytes, the show where canine professionals share their key takeaways, big aha moments, and hardest lessons learned from working with dogs. I'm Mattison, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant, and dogs are my life. Every day I get to coach guardians and other trainers into a deeper understanding of canine behavior. But let's face it, sometimes dog training really bites. And that's okay, because when it does, we learn a lot. This podcast is all about sharing the lessons learned from experience, because the stories of when it got tough or when we made a mistake, that's when we learn the lessons worth learning. And it's time we share those with the world. I'll be talking to dog trainers and other pet professionals about times that working with dogs, well, bit. Not literally. Maybe literally. What's most important here on this show, what did they walk away with? What did they learn? How did it shape their approach today?
And with Emerson, there was something about the dynamic of that interaction that was so troubling to him that, like, he would go and grab the shoes, for example, and then you could almost see the thousands of times this has happened already in his life, where he would grab the shoes, he would get attention, but he's getting yelled at. And then maybe
he was probably feeling very conflicted.
Yeah.
Like that I think is a big light bulb moment for people too, to realize that their dog can feel two conflicting things at the same time. I've been there.
Exactly. Yeah. So like feeling, I'm glad I'm getting your attention, but now I'm scared because what's going to happen next, or I'm stressed, or I want to play, but I also just want to know how to be a good boy, but I can't control my body.
Confused too. Yeah. Really confused. And most dogs don't want to be dysregulated. I don't think any dog wants to be dysregulated. They don't know another way. And in fact, they haven't had something else be reinforced. And I don't know if you've had that moment of when the dog, feels the other option besides stress for the first time. And they're like, oh my God, this is way better.
Yes, I've totally had those moments. The light bulb moment where you can see the dog, like, it clicks. They get it.
It doesn't have to be like this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Emerson. It sounds like he was definition bull in a china shop.
Totally. Yeah. And he did have some additional nervous system issues that were really interesting. He'd been neutered, and so he'd been prescribed trazodone for after that surgery, and he ended up having a seizure on that medication.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then another time, he had been in a previous home, and I was able to connect with that person, and she told me about a time when the vet had prescribed Xanax, so they tried giving him Xanax, and he had this hyperaggression dysregulation episode that took hours to resolve. So there was like really something going on neurologically with this dog.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting.
So what is I know you said that Emerson's brought a lesson into your life that then trickled down in some way to the way that you worked with Muggins. So what was the way forward here for poor Emerson, who it sounds like had no idea what a baseline was and how to come down to it?
Yeah. One of the big pieces was I really started shifting my perspective from away from behavior and on to nervous system regulation. That was like a really big shift, to really think less about rewarding or punishing behaviors, because behaviors are the symptoms of what's going on underneath. And so I really wanted to address what was going on underneath and help this dog's nervous system to get into a rhythm and help him learn that he could have his needs met if he could just communicate what those are, and if the people around him could just recognize what those needs are. So that was a huge piece. And then a piece that there's like so many components of nervous system regulation. But one piece that I really hadn't considered as much prior to Emerson was how much feeding impacts nervous system regulation. right?
Yeah.
And Emerson was a dog who actually wasn't getting enough food. He was
Aha, the opposite.
exactly, which you never think of,
Yeah.
especially like looking at him. He looked like he was getting enough food, but he also had an intermittent appetite. So he would eat sometimes and not others, and had a harder time eating outside. And those dogs that are labeled as not being food motivated, we can't just write that off as, oh, they're not food motivated, because there is something going on. They need the food. They are food motivated. Just something is going on digestively that is interrupting either the appetite from having a normal cycle, or disrupting the dog from being able to feel when they're hungry. Maybe they can't feel it until it's really intense and painful.
Right.
Or is there digestive pain because there's IBS or some other thing going on causing inflammation that we need to address?
A lot of dogs that are refusing food regularly, like we said, there's a reason. And I've seen a lot of, I'm going to put like air quotes around this, food allergies, because I don't know that they're always like an allergy so much as a sensitivity to the way that we process and produce dog foods. Like I don't know that really all the dogs out there are allergic to chicken so much as they have sensitivities to what we feed the chicken and the way that we process the chicken. It is one of the most natural drives for a dog to consume food and to feed their appetite. That is the primary driver, right? Is eat and reproduce.
Yeah.
And so when we see something preventing that, we have to ask why. Your dog is not stubborn. Your dog is probably not just moody, right? There's probably something more going on. Like you said, your nervous system there's a lot of interconnectedness there between your nervous system and your gut. And I am the type of person that, and this is a long time ago before I really even knew much about my nervous system, but when I was stressed, I had no appetite. No appetite. And it's not just that I didn't want to eat, I couldn't. And if I tried, I would be ill. I would not be able to keep it down.
Yeah.
And dogs have the instinct, they have the knowledge to refuse foods that have historically caused them discomfort, that have not settled well, that have caused them some type of upset. So that's something that with my clients, we get very curious whenever there's food refusal, because there's normally a good reason, but there's so many different possibilities. It could be learning history. It could be contextual, that they've eaten that food in a really stressful situation too many times. They were too past threshold. That food now has its own connotation, and it's not a physical issue. So I just think that it's something that is so important to get curious, and you can learn so much about what's really going on by looking at the appetite.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like, how is the dog responding when they're supposed to be relaxing also, right? So for a dog like Emerson, who had trouble with coming down from like very states of dysregulation or high arousal or excitement.
Yeah.
I was starting to put the pattern together of, oh, all right, the dog has been exercised, he's had the water, he's had the attention, he's played, he's eaten, but he's not able to relax for some reason. Even though he seemed to want to, he would go into the crate and try to relax, but appear really frustrated and then there was this bark that was this really unusual, very intense sound that it sounded painful. It felt painful to me. So I was wondering, it must be painful for him, whatever he's feeling.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was also having a lot of digestive trouble. And I had experienced periods where I would be hungry to the point that it hurt. And I started to think, I'm wondering what does hunger feel like to Emerson? And does it hurt? And is he hungry? And so that was part of it. Obviously, we also had to explore the medical route and rule things out. So taking him to a vet and a veterinary behaviorist was part of the treatment, so that we could make sure we were looking for everything and ruling everything out so that we could really focus on what was needed.
Isn't the world funny, where the universe is not just going to put people in your path over and over again to learn to deal with it, but it's also going to put dogs in your path. Oh, you're working through this in yourself? Here it is in dog form. Work through it here too.
Exactly.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what the resolution was and how you were able to take that step forward and kind of puzzle out Emerson, because it sounds like nothing occurs in a vacuum, right? It's not just one
Mhm.
thing. It's always many. I always say to my clients,
Mhm.
it could be this, it could be this, or it could be this, but more likely it's all three.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, it was definitely a multifaceted approach. One of the things was feeding him more, really thinking about just feeding him because he seems hungry and maybe
Yeah.
he is asking for food. So give him more food, regardless of what it seems like he should be eating.
That way you can rule out, is it just because he's hungry? And if
Yeah.
you give him more food to the point where,
Hmm.
okay, it can't be now that he just needs more food. He's had plenty of food. You
Yeah.
can cross that off your list and move on to the next thing.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that was part of it. That helped.
Yeah.
Also exercising him, so making sure he got enough movement in his day to be able to really just have a rhythm of sleeping, waking up, exercising, playing, eating, going back to sleep, and really trying to make sure he had consistency with that cycle.
He was built like an athlete, right? He's
Mhm.
like a field lab. So really built to be moving, built to be doing things. And labs are retrievers in general, all the gun dogs. They're designed to work in partnership with the human. They're
Mhm.
designed to seek connection and work with their one person in just perfect, beautiful companionship. And my husband, who knows nothing about dogs, like never had a dog before he met me, he first time he ever saw me work with a cattle dog who was pretty reactive, but then in play he saw how what a machine they are in play. He said, I
Mhm.
guess it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I like to quote my husband who knows nothing about dogs because it's true. And I actually rephrased it to one of my students the other day of, when the tank is full, we can't just siphon gas. We have to burn it. You have to burn
Mm.
it. It
Mhm.
has to be used efficiently. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great analogy. Mhm.
So what were some of the ways to unlock that in Emerson? Because I feel like with a dog who can't regulate, it can be really hard to have like appropriate, productive engagement because it's just chaos, right? It's just bull in a china shop. So how were you able to funnel that drive into something appropriate and productive?
Mhm. We taught him structured games, like not just free play, but like a fetch game that
Like a
had
purpose.
a
Yeah.
lot of structure where Emerson could know exactly what he was supposed to be doing during that game. And the game also included practice of skills that were related to self regulation. He would offer a sit and then I would throw the toy and he
Mhm.
would run and get it and bring it back and then maybe we would play tug a little bit or I would pet him and then when he was ready he would drop it and then he would sit and then I would throw it again so he could practice transitioning between running and getting
Bringing
some
it down, coming
action.
up and then bringing it back down.
Yes, exactly. And also pairing the bringing the toy back with me petting him because he really was craving that connection with another human, but he didn't know how to do it in the right way. And if he had something in his mouth already, then he was less likely to grab onto my clothes or to jump or something like that. And so he could get that loving and touch that he really was looking for.
I've
And,
met a
but it,
lot of dogs that really just can interact with people a lot better when they got something in their mouth. Like
yeah,
it's just much more comfortable for them because otherwise they have this frantic, like looking around for something to put in their mouth. And
yeah.
when you practice enough of, please don't mouth me, I'll engage with you when you're not mouthing me, they
Mhm.
want to grab that item because they're like, I know I can be better when I just have this
Yeah.
thing in my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. So once they realize that, then you have to create the opportunities for them to use that skill. Emerson was using that skill by grabbing shoes or the
Right.
garbage can
But then he's
lid.
getting yelled
Right?
at, like, but I'm not biting you. That's the whole point.
Yeah. So when I realized that he was really trying to be intentional by grabbing the wrong things,
Yeah.
I made sure that the right things were more available, but I also changed my response to what he would do when he would grab the wrong things. And I would actually thank him for grabbing the wrong things because we don't want to ignore those behaviors that a lot of people, right, think
Yeah.
we need to ignore it so we're not rewarding
No,
it.
because that would just be too frustrating.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
like to use, this is something I've been trying to do more of. The actual cue I've been using is try again. And
Right.
it doesn't mean that's a bad behavior. It just means that wasn't actually what I was looking for. And
Mhm.
it's trying to promote that like curiosity of like, I could do this or I could do this without the frustration. Some dogs it's not going to work great for. Some dogs it's a game changer for. Dogs that do want to offer things. Some dogs are like, they're going to offer one thing. And if it's not it, they're like, okay, I give up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, dog people. Are you looking for all natural treats and chews to aid your training journey? Meet Downtown Barkery by Downtown Pet Supply, a line of premium treats and chews that are ingredient focused and crafted with canine wellness in mind. Downtown Barkery's freeze-dried treats are excellent for training because they're bite-sized, low-calorie, and packed with nutrients. Each flavor is comprised of a single ingredient sourced in the USA. They are great for on-the-go training in public because they're compact, dry, and low odor, so you can throw some in your pocket and always be ready to reward. They also offer premium yak chews, which are long-lasting and great for teething pups who want something tough to gnaw on. They're available in cranberry and blueberry with ingredients like charcoal added to clean teeth and freshen breath. And you can save $5 on your order with code BYTES. That's BYTES. Visit www.downtownpetsupply.com or click the link in the show notes to check out their Downtown Barkery premium treat line. He sounds like he was really high drive, really
Mhm.
high drive.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I think mostly high intelligence, just so bright, really paid attention to patterns that the people were doing and the rhythm of the home
Yeah.
and all of that. And he wanted to play, right? He had a sense of humor and a sense of playfulness. And one of the things he would do with the like grabbing the shoes is he would grab it and run, right? Like, you're going to yell at me, I'm going to run away. And so I thought about, how do I get him to actually bring it to me? Because he's a retriever. Why not teach him to bring me things in his
Right.
mouth, right? Use his natural strengths and funnel them in the right way. So that
Mhm.
was part of the saying thank you. Oh, you've got my shoe. Thank you. So then
Yeah.
he would feel safer coming to me. I could reward him for that. And then I could trade him for
Do the
something.
alternatives. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
It sounds like that was just a really big sort of, I don't know, turning point or unlocking moment for him to be able to just tap into the drive and communicate more clearly. Because, like you said, he was trying to communicate, he was just getting confused and frustrated, which
Yeah.
was leading to the painful part for
Mhm.
everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how did that experience translate over into unlocking the puzzle of Muggins years later?
Mm. Yeah, Muggins had a lot of similar behaviors. So Muggins didn't behave well. Muggins also had intermittent appetite, which we
Mhm.
talked about earlier. And Muggins had a biting issue, like Emerson had. And Muggins would also grab the shoes and grab all of the wrong things. And so I didn't have to wonder what to do as much because I was like, oh, I've seen this before. Oh, thank you, Emerson.
Yeah.
Now I can really Muggins. We implemented the thank you when you're grabbing the shoes right away.
Yep.
And it was like dramatically different as soon as we started doing that with Muggins. It really nipped that behavior in the bud. And
Mhm.
he's like never ever chewed anything or destroyed anything by chewing it in our home and learned to bring us things really easily. But also we have these like balance pods. They're like
Yeah.
these
I
colored
know
like
exactly what you're
half
talking about. The
circle.
little paw
Yeah,
pods. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I got a whole bunch of those to initially just to use for myself to stretch my feet out on or whatever. But Muggins really liked playing with them and we would do step on them games. But now Muggins uses them as cues, like they'll grab it sometimes and bring it when they want to go out. Or if they're nervous about going out because it's raining, they'll go and grab the pod first to have something in their mouth. It seems like something when they're dysregulated and they're like not sure what to do, they'll go
It's
and
like
grab
a
the pod.
default.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they'll also grab it just to play, to have something in
Yeah.
the mouth to play. Yeah, I find that it is a very inexpensive, very valuable tool to have around the home, which is just something the dog can just grab when they need to have something in their mouth.
I've met a lot of dogs that have for lack of a better term, this is what more like 90% of the people call it, the baby. Like their dog has their baby.
Yes.
And it's like the first stuffy, they got their dog, there's no stuffing left. It's basically their baby blanket in
Yeah.
stuffy form. I feel like a lot of dogs have that. And I don't see any issue with like emotional support stuffed animals for our animals, provided that they're not experiencing dysregulation around that object, which I've also seen. I feel like sometimes it is something they can use like to regulate and to ground, and sometimes it becomes an object of like fixation or obsession, and they'll do just a lot of whining and carrying it around, and that can be not quite as healthy. But I think more often than not, it can be a really healthy thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's a super healthy thing too, because dogs need to use their mouths like we use our hands. So they need to have objects that are okay for them to put in their mouth and use in that way.
Yep. This is slightly off topic, but the paw pods have been really helpful for me and my dog Remy with our cooperative care. It's our start button for he has Grinch toes, he got the fluffy feet. So when he's ready for me to trim, he drapes his paw all over the pod and it positions it perfectly for me to be able to trim. And so we use it for other things too, just for balancing and physio and just other targeting exercises because it's fun. But I agree. I think having an object for them that is theirs that you wouldn't necessarily use in like structured play, right? It's more just like a comfort object for them. Okay, Sharon, did you have any other, I don't know, lessons, insights, through lines from Emerson to Muggins that, I don't know, there was a moment that I had where you thanked Emerson. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to build that into my practice of when I have a moment where a previous client dog has helped me with a situation to sit and thank that dog for what they've left with me. So that's something that you've imparted on me today. Is there anything else about Emerson or Muggins that you feel like is just a really valuable lesson for people to know?
I think the final lesson I'll share is that was really clear with Emerson and Muggins is that it really takes a team approach with a dog like this. Maybe any dog, but a dog that is really struggling in multiple ways and also is really large and really young. It takes a team. Emerson's story ended up so great because we found an adoptive family that was willing to take on the challenge of Emerson, but also was willing to continue working with me and the veterinary behaviorist and really make sure that they understood how to communicate with Emerson and could give him a home that could meet his needs. And with Muggins, it's been very similar. I can't live with Muggins by myself. I need my partner to also share the responsibilities. And we've needed the support of veterinarians and nutritionists and trainers in the community and friends and dog walker to come and support us so that we can make sure not only that Muggins's needs are met, but that our needs as guardians are met.
And dogs like Emerson and like Muggins, who maybe do need a little bit more and need support, they're also really worth it. I just want to say that, like, it does take a little bit more and you get every bit of it back and then some.
Yeah.
It can be work, right? It can be work. Nobody's saying that it's not work, but most of the things that are really worth it and really going to show up for you in your life are.
Yeah. Absolutely. And every single lesson that I learned from both of these dogs were lessons that I absolutely needed to learn for myself. And these dogs just provided me with an opportunity to learn in a way that came with fun times with a puppy.
Tears, laughs, everything in between. It all comes with it. Is there anything else that you would like the dog people out there to know about you or what you do?
Provide co-regulation coaching, which elation or anxiety or aggression. We do co-regulation to support the dog. And the other way co-regulation coaching can go is to support the human. I love to work with neurodivergent humans who may also be struggling with nervous system regulation or symptomology that looks like meltdowns or panic attacks or hallucinations or intrusive thoughts, things like that. and who want to really learn about their nervous system, their sensory processing patterns, and develop skills for asking for help, knowing what they need, giving themselves sensory diet exercises so that their nervous system is nourished properly, and setting boundaries. So that's how co-regulation program can go two different ways. And then I also offer behavior consulting. If you're just at a loss for what to do with your dog and you need some extra support to know what is actually going on, maybe looking deeper at the sensory processing patterns of the dog and learning about how that can contribute to behavior, then you can just do a one-time session of behavior consulting. And yeah, so I also have some recorded classes. If you want to just learn a little bit or get your feet wet, I have a class called Everything But the Words, which is all about nonverbal cues of the nervous system for humans and dogs. And then I have an intro to co-regulation class. And I'll be developing some more things over the next year. So I'd love to have you tag along.
I love it. I'm so excited to jump into your resources and see what next year has to hold. So before we call it for today, I was wondering if you might be able to give the dog people out there another one or two sort of times when it might make sense for them to do some type of pause, taking that 3-breath drill that you went through at the beginning of the episode. When else might that be something that would be helpful for either pet parents or pet pros to use in their day life work?
Great question. Yeah. One of the times it's so helpful is right before you start an activity with the dog, to just pause for yourself and tune into yourself and ask, what is it that I need right now? To make sure that you are coming to the table with a full cup so that you can really attend to the dog's needs in that moment. And I think because we interact with our dogs in a routine way, we tend to connect with them at similar times every day and do similar activities at those times. So I think that can be a great foundation to add another activity to, especially a check-in with the self pause moment, because then it's easier to make sure that you do it every day because you're attaching it to this other activity that you're already doing every day.
Yeah, it's habit stacking.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. And I think that particularly if you have a dog that experiences overly reactive behavior out in the world on walks, taking this pause before heading out into the world can be helpful for everyone. And then also knowing that you have it as and when the dysregulation occurs, to be able to get distance and then bring yourself back down, which is as important, right? As I think prepping for those moments is being able to recover from them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You need to practice it as a routine and then also when you need it in those stressful moments.
It won't be helpful in the stressful moments unless you've practiced it in the non-stressful moments. Weird. It sounds exactly like dog training.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on, Sharon. I really appreciate the story of Emerson and how it just left you with the lesson that you needed before you needed it with Muggins. I think that was a beautiful story, and we can be so thankful for the challenging dogs because they are setting us up to be able to handle some dog down the line and be able to bring that solution that we haven't even thought of what that might be yet, getting those experiences. And I'm definitely going to be taking lots of notes from your book in terms of just taking pauses, thinking about showing gratitude to past dogs and past clients that have left me with those lessons. Because this really felt like it was just a thank you letter to Emerson.
Oh, I love how you described that. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Emerson, for everything.
You can connect with Sharon on Instagram at Holistic Dog Expert, and you can find more information and a link to her work in the show notes. Thanks for joining us in the world of Dog Training Bytes, where every challenge brings a lesson worth sinking our teeth into. See you next time. Dog Training Bytes was created, produced, and edited by Mattison Simpson. You can connect with me on Instagram at Dog Training Bytes, that's BYTES, and at Freed by Training. For information on today's guest and resources for help with your dog or dog training education, visit www.dogtrainingbytes.street. Looking for more? Listen to my other show, Unpacked, a clinical dog training podcast co-hosted by Sailor Jerry the dog trainer and produced by Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC.